everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my 100k FTMO challenge. Picking up where we left off last week with this week's trades, where we are on the account and what we are looking forward to this upcoming week. So there's quite a lot of news release this week, so we're navigating through that, obviously with the influx of liquidity, just to see what opportunities do present themselves and what kind of price action presents itself as well through the week. So starting off with the first trade, I only took 2 trades this week. Here it shows 3. These were the 3 trades, but I'll explain why. This was essentially the same trade, just repositioned. But I'm going to start with the first one. So if I get that up here, and then this one. So this is the before, and this is how the markets are looking when we came into Monday's trading on Monday morning. We had this Thursday high from the previous week, which I identified, and price came up, swept that, and then had this market shift here. So this was during the London session in the morning. Obviously from back testing, you do tend to find some kind of manipulation happen on a Monday morning. So sometimes I am a bit wary about taking the first trade of the first day, but if it's clean enough, then I am happy enough to take it, just because I'm happy enough to risk the trade and just see how it plays out. So as you can see here, swept the high and then had a market structure shift lower with those displacement candles here. It left 3 fair value gaps, one 5 minute there, 5 minute there, and 5 minute there. The reason I didn't enter on here, even though usually ICT talks about using the first fair value gap to enter on the trade, just so you get triggered in, is because if you draw a fib from that high to that low, that fair value gap was actually in a discount, so you want to be selling at the ones in premium to give you the higher probability trades and the higher probability fair value gaps you're going to be entering on. So either that one or that one. I decided to enter on this middle one here because that was in the premium of that range. So when price started coming up, ignored the first one, messed around a little bit, then came higher. That's when I entered into the trade up here. Market executed with 0.25% risk on this trade. So obviously the reasons for the trade was that we had the 4-hour buy side liquidity, which is this Thursday high that was swept. We had the 15-minute market structure shift, which you can see here in the 5 minute. It left a 15-minute, 5-minute fair value gap, and just entered on that. Obviously you had the displacement candles there as well, which kind of confirmed that. So it fit my trading criteria, and I was happy enough to take the trade, even though it was on a Monday. This was the after and how it played out. So it was respecting the 5-minute fair value gap and the 15-minute fair value gap, if you jumped onto both of those time frames. And then it had the reaction lower, which was here. Then it came back up, tapped into this higher time frame, and then it came lower, and then you can see it came up, tapped into that 5-minute fair value gap, consolidated it a little bit, was still respecting that order block there, came down, retested it again, had this reaction lower, and then I was expecting it obviously to start making its way down through the New York session. But when I saw that it failed to make this low here and then price started moving forward, that's when I started thinking that I was actually offside on this trade, and just started monitoring a lot more closely just to see what it wanted to do coming into that actual liquidity, the actual volume from the New York session. So once it went above this high up here, so it disrespected these PD arrays. Once it went above that high with that large candle there, that's when I decided to actually manually close the trade, because I knew I was offside, and it was actually a really good decision to do that, because ended up closing the trade at minus $200, which is a 0.2%. So I saved myself a little 0.5% on that trade by closing it manually. As you can see, the stop loss here is actually above a lot higher, it's 0.08625, whereas here is 1.08. 601. So that's where I closed it manually, just to save myself and cut my losses on that trade, as I identified that I was actually offside on this, especially when it broke through that, especially disrespected that order block and failed to make that low there. So sat aside, sat on my hands until the next trading opportunity that wanted to present itself, and that was the first trade. Next trade came the next day. So this is what the trade looked like. This was the before, and the reason why I took this trade is we had a 15-minute liquidity sweep of Asia lows, you can see here. Price tapped into an order block over here as well, and then you had the 15-minute market shift here. Fair value gap that was left behind on the 15-minute as well. Price was overall bullish, so I was anticipating this 4-hour buy side liquidity to get targeted, and then there was another high time frame daily buy side liquidity that I wanted to target up here as well. There was news in the afternoon, so I ideally wanted to execute this trade, which came into within my kill zone, and then use the news that was going to come out in the afternoon, well, the New York morning session, to potentially take price up there as the injection of liquidity. So entered there, and then what ended up happening was that was the same one. 1 second. Yeah, so the reason why there's this screenshot here is because I actually manually closed it when price did this. So as you can see, reacted higher, consolidated a little bit, came lower, and then came back up here, and then I manually closed. The reason for that is I just wasn't too sure about the trade. I was 50-50 about it coming into that New York session. I was thinking, nah, why is price kind of like obviously respected the fair value gap and then broke through it to then come back up? Am I offside here? Is the news just going to come down and absolutely tank and take me out, or is my bias correct? So that kind of got into my psychology. I was about 50-50 about the trade, but after a while I thought, you know what, no. So after I closed it, I thought, you know what, no, let me stick to my analysis. Let me stick to what I'd analyzed. Let me trust the process, trust the trading strategy, and not mess around with the probabilities. So I actually decided to re-enter and reposition when price was around this level. So as you can see, little $40 loss there, but then I re-entered again around here, so within that fair value gap again. Stop loss the same as before, and the reason obviously overall for the trade, so yeah, this was the after, and this is when the news came out. So I decided to hold through news, manually closed over here because dollar had actually swept the low on this candle here, which I was targeting. So at that point I thought, well, if dollar swept that low, it's got high probability of then now reversing. So let me close here, and looks like it was like literally the best decision I could have taken on this trade, rather than trying to hold up to these highs here, because that's when price actually did turn around here. So it spiked up, that was high of that candle. I closed when it was on its way down here, and then it spiked up again, started making its way down here to fill this little gap here, and then I was out of the trade by then. I just literally just walked away because I was happy enough to cover the loss from the previous trade and make like $100 profit as well. So price was actually bullish on the high time frame. Dollar was looking bearish, even though we were in a consolidation range on EU, which we had all around here. Decided to get back in and then just potentially take price higher. Obviously this is the reposition trade that I had before, because I thought, let me just trust my analysis. I'm glad I did that, and I'm just glad that I closed at the right time, because I was watching dollar to see what that did, and once that swept the low, that's when I was happy enough to close that trade and just be happy with the profits. That was literally the last trade of the week, because I didn't take any more trades on the funded account, and ended up the week with $100 sorry in profit. So that takes us through the week, which we had So yeah, that trade was on the 5th, which was on a Tuesday. Literally Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Didn't take any more trades on this account. Just sat on my hands to see what price wanted to do. And as you can see here, so these were my targets for the week. This was the start of the week up here, and my bias was to take out this buy side liquidity, but I just didn't find any other reasonable opportunities for me to take on the account that I was happy enough to put risk on, apart from those first two trades. And dollar had the same things on the daily. These were my targets down here. I was overall bearish, moving down into the sell side liquidity. There's a gap here on the 4 hours, so the price gap here, which I was anticipating price to come down and fill that, which it did towards the end of the week. And then a 4 hour fair value gap down here, which it filled in nicely. I did expect this sell side to get swept, but as you can see, we might expect something, we might predict something, but price doesn't have to do that. So coming up to this coming week, what I'm anticipating is potentially Monday price to come up, tap into here, or potentially here throughout the week. Maybe get a possible retracement back into the range, because we've swept sell side down here and here, filled that price gap. So we could now come back to rebalance these areas here and then make its way down to these lows. But we'll have to see during the week, just to see what price wants to do. So a little bit cautious coming into this week, as obviously we swept the low here. We don't want to be caught offside again, so it'll be interesting to see what price actually wants to do this coming week. We do have news on, let's have a look. So yeah, we've got CPI news on Tuesday. We had the NFP news on Friday, which then means Monday markets might be a little bit funny, so not expecting the best setups on Monday, along with CPI on Tuesday as well. Price just might be, gauging itself and preparing itself for that injection of liquidity and volume on Tuesday. Wednesday, nothing really to worry about, so we'll see what CPI does. Thursday, we've got PPI news, quite a lot of high volume news on Thursday, and then Friday, looking good on Friday, so we'll just see what kind of opportunities present themselves. Monday, I'm not expecting to set anything clean, as price might just be preparing itself for Tuesday and the rest of the week. So apart from that, guys, hope you have a good week. All you guys who are trading, patience pays. That one's just there to remind myself, hard work pays. Hope you guys have a profitable week, and apart from that, peace, love, see you on the next page.